Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is Comedic Pedro 1966. On the cover of this video, there's a photograph from the Dick Van Dyke Show, which I think was a wonderful show back in the 60s. It aired between 1961 and 1966. There were 158 half-hour episodes, and Mary Tyler Moore was also in that show. She later had a wonderful show in the 1970s, the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And in the Dick Van Dyke Show, Dick Van Dyke played a character named Rob Petrie, who was a TV comedy writer. Now, Dick Van Dyke was born in 1925 in West Plains, Missouri. He's still alive at age 93. He's an actor, comedian, and singer. And he was in the famous movie Mary Poppins, and played a wonderful role, a friend of Mary Poppins. And there's a wonderful line where he goes, "Mary Poppins." And he was in the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. His brother was also an actor, Jerry Van Dyke. Yeah, at the opening of the Dick Van Dyke Show, he's coming home from work, and he has some friends who are over there. I think his friends from work. And Mary Tyler Moore, his wife, comes to the door to let him in. And he sees his friends across the room, and he goes over to greet them. And there's like a thing there on the floor, like where you put your feet, like I think they call them a settee, or it's this thing. And anyway, he trips over that because he doesn't see it, and he does a nice somersault. But he gets up and greets his friends, and they're like, oh, they want to make sure he's okay. And that scene kind of, when he trips, and he sort of laughs it off, and he has this self-deprecating humor, which I think is very endearing. If you can make fun of yourself, because people tend to take themselves too seriously. And actually, the great thing about self-deprecating humor is that you don't offend other people. You're putting yourself down, and he kind of he looks kind of foolish, but it doesn't bother him. So, and the thing I like about Dick Van Dyke is you can tell he's a very funny guy, very talented, but he's a good person, and that's the thing that to me is important in life. So that's a wonderful show. The Dick Van Dyke Show from my childhood. I believe it was in black and white. Now the events in 1966. January 1st, Jean Bedel Bokassa was this colonel in the military, had a coup d'etat in the Central African Republic. Yeah, he became a pretty bad dictator. Eventually, he had himself crowned and had set up all the trappings of royalty in this country, Central African Republic. On January 19th, Indira Gandhi was elected Prime Minister of India. She was probably the most famous and maybe beloved prime ministers in Indian history, and her family, eventually her son and grandson, were also elected prime minister. A very talented woman, and one of the most famous women in history, Indira Gandhi. On February 4th, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Pot, the first Winnie the Pooh featurette, was released. Everybody loves Winnie the Pooh. What a wonderful character! This stuffed bear, a toy bear. March 4th, John Lennon of the Beatles said that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus Christ, and he never, later he apologized for that, and that led to all kinds of trouble. Really offended a lot of people because, Jesus Christ was one of the great saints in history, and if you're a Christian, you're a savior. On March 15th, there were racial riots in Watts, Los Angeles. This was part of the 1960s. A lot of the frustration that African Americans kind of had suppressed for decades, really, and centuries, was coming out. April 1st, the Flintstones aired their series finale on ABC TV. The Flintstones, a wonderful cartoon. April 8th, Leonid Brezhnev became the leader of the Soviet Union, kind of a humorless man. On April 21st, Haile Selassie, the Emperor of Ethiopia, visited Jamaica and met with the Rastafarians, who believed that he was they worshipped him because under his leadership, Ethiopia had defeated Italy, the first time an African country had defeated a European country. By April 29th, there were 250,000 American troops in Vietnam. The tragic Vietnam War was ongoing. May 29th, Guyana became independent of Great Britain and South America. It was British Guyana, and then this relatively small country in the northern part of South America. May 29th, It's a Small World opened in Disneyland. I think that was a part of the theme park in California. June 1st, the final episode of the Dick Van Dyke Show aired. Wonderful program. June 13th, Joaquin Balaguer was elected the president of the Dominican Republic in the Caribbean. June 13th was the Miranda versus Arizona Supreme Court case. And the resolution was that police had to inform suspects of their rights before questioning them. The so-called Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent, and so forth. June 27th, Frank Zappa had his debut album, Freak Out, was released. And that same day, Dark Shadows, a gothic soap opera, debuted on ABC TV. July 18th, the Huff Riots started in Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah, this frustration that black Americans were sort of ventilating from what they'd been through. July 30th, England defeated West Germany in the World Cup final to become the World Cup champion for 1966. On August 5th, there was the groundbreaking for the World Trade Center in New York City. Of course, then those were very iconic, these two huge buildings, which came down at 9/11. Very tragic. Same day, Caesar's Palace Hotel and Casino opened in Las Vegas. All right, that's probably the most famous hotel and casino in Las Vegas. On August 13th, in China, Mao Zedong started the Cultural Revolution. Very tragic, not funny at all. And this was, in fact, Mao Zedong outlawed humor in China. Horrific, hard times. It sounds kind of good, a cultural revolution. Oh, it was horrible. September 8th, Star Trek, a science fiction TV series, debuted on NBC. Now, I was only 6 years old, so I didn't really get into it because I was too young, but older. This was the beginning, really, of science fiction, Star Trek, and then Star Wars, which is such a big part of global culture. October 24th, the negotiations regarding the Vietnam War opened in Manila, Philippines, trying to resolve that very difficult war. October 27th, It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, premiered on CBS TV. Wonderful. Yeah, this is like a Halloween special. Very, very nice. November 1st, the NFL announced there'll be a new NFL team, which became the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans, Louisiana. November 8th, Ronald Reagan, a famous actor, was elected governor of California. Of course, later he became U.S. president. On November 24th, the Beatles were recording Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, that album, which is still very, very popular. December 15th, Walt Disney died during production of the animated movie The Jungle Book. Yeah, Walt Disney, one of the great men in history, who founded the Disney Company and all these wonderful, and the Disneyland and Disney World and these wonderful Disney movies and so forth. On December 18th, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, narrated by Boris Karloff, who'd been a great, wonderful horror movie actor. Anyway, that came out on CBS and became an annual Christmas tradition, that movie. And they had actually the movie about the Grinch this past year. So that's the story of what was going on in the year. Now, in my family, my father, both my parents, turned age 42. They're very busy people. Now, if you'll notice, I'm wearing a Nassau, Bahamas T-shirt with the flag of the Bahamas. And our family started going to the Bahamas in 1966. And we started going every year, and we start eventually twice a year. Early on, it was from about the middle of March to the middle of April, and we'd go for a month. Yeah, my father had worked very hard, and he'd been successful as a lawyer, and he was a guy who concentrated and worked hard, and a good guy. People liked him. Real nice personality, and he'd done well for his law firm. Now his law partners didn't like this. Oh my God, you're taking off for a month, but my parents really needed that because they were both so busy. They would. Both of them were super busy, and they needed to kind of get away from it all. And of course, it was a nice break, and they had my dad had the money to do it. And so they would start going to an island in the Bahamas, Cistern Key. Well, earlier it was, it might have been this year, we were going to Hope Town and in another place in the Bahamas. Eventually it was Cistern Key. And I remember my father saying, "Oh, there's on this island there's a cave." Yeah, and I was only 5 years old. I turned 6 in May, and I remember, yeah. So from the time I was 5 years old, I was going to the Bahamas. I used to think if I ever ran for political office, I couldn't really talk about having coming from very humble circumstances or very challenging circumstances. Not if we're from age 5 flying to the Bahamas. So, but this was kind of a spiritual thing for my parents because it was nice weather, sunny, and this quiet and peaceful and very beautiful island, and they really needed that to because they were just running themselves ragged with all the things that they were doing. They really needed that break to recharge their batteries. So anyway, so they turned 42. They were still very, very busy. My older brother Mark turned 14, and the first 6 months of the year he was in grade 7. He was in the junior high, so he was getting older, and then in the fall he was in grade 8. So he was facing that challenge. I think it's kind of a challenging situation at the junior high with those and actually pressure from teachers and more sports pressure, I think, to achieve in sports, and other kids could be kind of hard on each other in the junior high. Pamela turned 12, and she finished up at Kensington by June when the school year ended. Then she started at the junior high as well. So Mark and Pam were at the junior high in the fall, and so yeah, Pam had that adjustment to make, which in my own case I found very, very tough because we lived pretty close to Kensington. Very short walk, and I found that whole relatively easy. The school, a nice environment, and the junior high was really tough. Anyway, Patricia, my other sister, turned 9. She was in grade 2, and then up until June, and in the fall, grade 3. So yeah, she probably missed when Pam was. I'm sure she missed Pam when Pam started going to the junior high. Since we were going, actually at the beginning of the year we were all going to Kensington. Now I finished up kindergarten in the first 6 months of the year, and then grade 1 in the fall. So I was a little kid, and so for the first half of the year, Pam, Patty, and I were all going to Kensington, and then but then after that it was just Patty and me, and the Mark and Pam were at the junior high. So we were this busy family. And all, we were good people, and my parents were definitely good people, and we had a good life, and a lot of achievement, a lot of music. We were expected to play musical instruments, and my parents were so busy, and so that was the story of 1966. Yeah. Anyway, you might consider checking out our website, Adventures in History with Peter J. Ray at peterjray.com. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.